before I move on to questions, because I'm noticing that there are already approximately about 85 questions on my table here, which have come in from the viewers, and I want to leave some time on the table for that. Um, uh, Two questions, and these are again questions which have also been voiced by the viewers. What role do you see B schools playing in enabling HR to be a high value add function within organizations? So, what can B schools do to make a difference?
I think first of all, B schools should relook at themselves and should understand that B schools are HR schools. You are preparing people for any business. I mean, any business. To me, you have to redefine business. In fact, just the other day in one of the B schools, we were looking at the mission statement, and they came up with the mission statement to prepare leaders for the future of a business. I said that, look, you need to define this business. Now, today, everything has become business. We say even government is doing business, right? What is happening today in our country? The political parties fighting they're doing nothing but business. Health is business. Education has become the other day. If you have listened to Vijay Govindarajan from US, he talked from Harvard. He said the biggest industry in US is education and health. So if you treat business that way, I think it is important for B schools to recognize they are in the business of human resource development. This is the most important thing they need. And then they start relooking at what are the various ways in which they can promote this. This is the biggest change that is required, because today I am saying HRD is not the business only of HRD people. In fact, the HRD professional success is on the day when the HRD professional is not needed. Why do you need somebody to tell you to develop?
Yeah.
So I think B schools will succeed when they convert themselves into a HR school. You don't have to call them, but you must recognize this, in which HR department just becomes a facilitator. They probably, in addition to training the students, they also train the institution building, self-renewal exercises, whole lot of things as internal change agents they can do. That is the way I look at it.
I guess how B schools, especially how B schools also ingrain the whole desire for entrepreneurship and the ability to succeed as entrepreneurs should also, I think, be an important fact that some of these institutes need to take cognizance of, because otherwise we are just churning out people who become, uh, cogs in the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
What's happening to innovation then in that sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I think time to take some questions from the viewers as well. There are so many. My apologies in advance, uh, viewers, in case I'm not able to take all. I will not be able to take all. So let's start with what I've done is I've clustered them. So, questions which have been asked by a lot of people, I'm going to prioritize those first. How do we encounter the biggest challenge of retrenchment in the current situation? So, loyalty of employees versus, say, the financial state of the employer.
Yeah, this is a very tricky question, Jagmohan. Uh, I think first I would start with a philosophy of human resource as possibilities. Before you retrench anyone, help them to explore, transparently share with them whatever difficulties you have, and help them to explore the way they can help themselves and help you. Because it is sure that if you don't have the capacity to, if you don't exist, they are not likely to exist. I think everyone knows that. If you are in financial trouble, there is no need to say that, look, I mean, frankly, share with them. Put, if they are a part of your family, what will you do? They are, of course, they have been a part of the family. I think Sadhguru used to say this: don't have use and throw philosophy. If you have use and throw philosophy, then what happens is at some point of time you will also face the same kind of a thing in a different kind of a context. So my suggestion number one is, please be transparent, take your people along, share your, and sharing your balance sheet is not new. As long back as in the 1987, 88, we had, of course, this is not, some of you may say, not a great example to talk of, Rishikesh Mafatlal. Uh, told us how they would make the entire balance sheet open to even the employees, and how they would put the employees or the workers from the mills in touch with the customers who come from Germany and other kind of countries. I think sharing a balance sheet is anyway an open secret. There is nothing, anyone can be a shareholder and get to know it. But transparently share and ask them their suggestions. And maybe you will get some creative solutions. And if you can't, then anyway, you're going to do what you're going to do in any case. Then do it with a human face. In a way, I mean, what prevents you from saying, look, this is the situation in which I am, and I'll still hold you on my roles. Not legally, I don't want to get into trouble. Legally, you are not there, but I'll put you, I assure you are on our roll. The moment our situation goes better, you are back here. Or can you come up? Can you? I think that is the way. My way of dealing with retrenchment is transparently talk to people, treat them as entrepreneurs. I think the entrepreneurship in the employee should be aroused. I would say that even to.
It's interesting how some of the things which are so simple to understand are also.
But we don't, Jagmohan, we don't try. Suppose you have to get rid of 1,000 employees in an airline.
Right.
What prevents you? I mean, in fact, I floated a concept called human possibility volunteers. Now, in this concept, I said I want to train a group of people who are volunteers to work on something like a 10,000 rupee a month. I don't want HR people who are looking to become a GM, AGM, vice president, etc., etc. I'll train you. Your job for next 1 year. I think 10,000 is good enough, because every month 3 of us in Ahmedabad have been living with just about 10,000 rupees. That's all you need in COVID time. Assume another year that you're going to have. So if you have a volunteer like this, now these are the kind of guys you should have, and get these 1,000 people whom you want to retrench. Let them loose. Talk to them. Find out. You might discover that they will become your marketing agents. They may become your sales agents. They may become so many things. They can keep doing it. World is vast. All that we need is.
I think apart from that, what it also does is it involves your stakeholders. It involves your employees as stakeholders in the decisions that you're going to take, and some of those are going to be tough decisions which are going to involve them.
Absolutely.
So you're actually making it easier for yourself to get to those decisions in the long run. But I guess at a psychological level, most of us have this embarrassment, this fear that, of being vulnerable. And I think that's what really stops us from involving people. Okay. The next question is, how do you see the role of data science evolving for HR professionals?
The role of?
Data science. Data science.
Labor science.
Data science. Data science.
Oh, data. Oh, data science. Now, technology and data science. I think we have not, it's a great thing that is available to us. We have not used it properly. Data science is a great boon for anybody who wants to be taking decisions in relation to talent. Simply, I mean, we collect so much data about every individual from the time he joins till the time he leaves. They're all data available. In fact, I say that every employee can be treated as a kind of you can have a portal. Every employee can keep on recording everything that she is doing. It's a phenomenal kind of a talent that is available. So if you maintain good data about individuals, it can throw up so many kind of things. Unfortunately, we are only using data science to predict employee turnover, predict the success of a job, which are certainly good. But I think it is high time that we go beyond this. And data science should create knowledge about people as possibilities, rather than simply creating in a narrow way whether this particular person suits my requirement or not.
So
data science is a great boon. I think we have a long way to go in terms of putting it to right kind of a use and building. A lot of things can be predicted with good data science.
So what we're saying is, going forward, it could be a great enabler of decisions for HR practitioners. But at the same time, the balancing act that most of us will need to play over there is, instead of using data science to treat our resources as mere widgets,
Yes.
How can we use the power of data science to actually make this more powerful for them, the business,
Absolutely.
as well as the organization?
Yeah. We
Okay.
are using today for short-term gains, short-term goals. We should simultaneously use it for long-term goals. The moment you treat human as a possibility and not merely somebody is there to achieve X amount of tasks or targets and Y amount of sales and so on, then you are into a totally different kind. I agree with you. That's very well summarized.
Thanks, Dr. Rao. There's another question. What should employees do so that the employer trusts in their abilities?
The employer,
Trusts in the abilities of the employee. What can the employee do to get there?
I think that's a good question. Uh, I want to put every employee into a framework of a performer. We have performance appraisals, right? Nowadays, we don't call them. I ban people from using the term appraisal. I say performance management systems. Now, if you have a performance management system, can you start using it as a system meant for your benefit? Now, how do I use it for my benefit? If I'm an employee, how do I look at the performance management system? If the company asks me to set targets, why do I keep asking so many questions to somebody who asked me to say, first tell me the departmental goals, later I will discuss? I think our employees negotiate a lot. And because they start with the feeling that the employer is not to be trusted, employer means the boss, HR is not to be trusted. So you must look at every HR tool as a tool meant for you. Then if you see it as a tool meant for you, training as a tool meant for you. And I know of companies where an employee is sponsored for training, he writes to HR department, please let me know the reasons why you are sponsoring me for this training program. I mean, this is stupid to ask somebody. I mean, why don't you? He's thinking of you. So, number one is first you start trusting various systems as meant for your goal. If I perform well, for whose benefit is it? It's for my benefit. So, may I take charge of my performance management system? Why should my boss set my KRAs? Why don't I set my KRAs? Why don't I set my targets? Why don't I start seeking feedback? Why don't I give feedback? Why do I need a coach? Why don't I coach my juniors? Why don't I coach even my seniors? So I think the moment the employee perceives himself as an owner of his or her own HR, trust will start getting built up. I
I
think
think
we
that's
are all the time starting with a win-lose game. I
I
think
think that's
first we should.
beautifully said. That's beautifully said. And um, how proactive you are versus, let's say, taking a reactive approach or waiting for somebody else to, provide you feedback.
Absolutely.
How can you take trust in your own hands and say how you can maximize it? Also, at a personal level, constantly evaluating your own credibility with various stakeholders. I think puts you in a place where at any time you know what your trust quotient is. Uh, Lovely. Okay, we have another one here. How do I use a STAR model in an effective way to answer situational-based interview questions?
Uh, First of all, I want to know what do you mean by star model?
Okay,
That
I'm
there are
guessing.
certain people who are stars.
So I'm
Identify
guessing.
stars. Is it a bell curve you are meaning?
No, I think what Birwa and the others might be referring to, Dr. Rao, is the STAR model. So if you allow, I'll quickly address that one.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay.
So Birwa and others, the STAR model is basically, I'm guessing you're trying to ask Dr. Rao, how would you use that as an interviewee? As an interviewee, remember, the more succinct your answers and the more precise they are, the higher the probability of the interviewer, looking at you positively. What the STAR network really does is it helps you outline the situation that you want to talk about, then refer to the task very logically and specifically, then get into the action that you took with respect to the task, and eventually talk about the results or the outcomes that happened. So if you can marry these four attributes through a golden thread, as an interviewer, you will be in a much better position to position yourself positively with the interviewer. If it's the other way around, which is the interviewer is asking this question, the idea would be to test or validate certain assumptions about the interviewees. So I hope that answers your question. Let's move on to the next one.
Thanks, Jagmohan. I must learn more about the star model.
Uh, Dr. Rao, you were, I'm guessing you're giving me opportunities to, respond to a few questions,
Sure.
which is what a good coach should do. Thank you so much for that. Let's move on to the next one. I think people want to know your thoughts on performance-based talent analytics. What are your feelings on that?
Performance-based talent analytics is a good idea. I will only come back to always say that, look, performance is always in a context. And nowadays we have become very short-term context oriented. There is a possibility that performance based analytics may not always give you the full information about the potential of an individual. So don't overstress the short-term performance targets, and do not over depend on the data you generate on this. And I would go back to say, human beings are possibilities. What got you up till this point may not get you into the future. So always remember, there is always something new, something different. So don't use to condemn people. Use it to build people. Use it to, I think, to get the best of the people. But it is certainly useful. Performance-based analytics useful to identify what is good, what works well under what circumstances, and what doesn't work.
Thank you. I think that sums it up beautifully. There is another question from Nepal saying, I hope I'm reading this right. Nepal is asking, in the organizational hierarchy, where are the HR specialist professionals more required? Are they required more at senior levels for taking HR transformation decisions, or are they required more at junior levels for transactional jobs? So where is the role of a specialist more appropriate, at senior or slightly more junior levels?
I have always promoted a hierarchy-less HR department. There should be no hierarchy. I think a senior person has his own role, a junior person has his own role. I think nowadays some of the juniors will be able to do a marvelous job. I think even if you are a specialist, like if you are a HR coach, you are a young fellow, you have a lot to coach even the seniors. You can observe, you can see what is the way impact they are having on the morale of their juniors and so on, and you can be a great coach. So there is no question of seniority, juniority. I believe that HR should be hierarchyless. It doesn't matter. You should be, since you use the term specialist, a specialist is a specialist in every context. You'll have to only examine whether your specialization helps in a particular context. If it doesn't help, simply say that, sorry, no, this is not my cup of tea. And if it helps, I think you jump on it and then get on to this. So I don't think there is any need for hierarchy. Forget about hierarchy. That is what has killed this country.
I think that's beautifully put. I'm totally aligned with you on that, Dr. Rao. Nepal, I hope that answers your question. Additionally, it is a fact that a lot of organizations, especially in the Western world, use specialists at their corporate offices. Essentially, when you look at more region-centric offices, then you might have more generalists there, and that's what's been happening in the Indian market as well. But my personal feeling lies very closely to what Dr. Rao just said. At a very subtle level, this does promote the hierarchical mindset, and I think it actually works anti to what one is really trying to achieve there. Okay, this one should be interesting. Almost 10 people have asked this question, Dr. Rao. What are the new skills that will be required by human resources professionals in the time of COVID, as well as going forward?
Well, in times of COVID, I think I have some of my YouTube videos, and I have talked about it, quite a bit of it. I think I have identified its skill comes out of this particular kind of a thing. HR people should understand the multiple stakeholders they serve. I have always said, first thing that is important is to take good care of yourself. If you are not surviving, there will be no one to help anybody. So take good care of yourself, which means your health, your personality, which your psychological as well as otherwise you can't coach, you can't help. Second, take care of your family. Skills required to have a good surrounding, good support system is the second important thing. Third is that you are an employee champion. So your focus should be on making your people healthy. So you're concerned for all your employees. Long ago, Dave Ulrich wrote this employee champion, HR champions. I think this is what is the important kind of thing. Then comes the fourth in the line. You are the employer. You are there to also take care of the interests of the employer. It's not employer's interest. Employers exist for employees and things like that. And then the other stakeholders who are the shareholders. And you all exist in a community. You can't just say that if in my neighborhood something is happening, I'm not bothered about it. You can't be totally isolated. So skills that are required are, first of all, your own philosophy of life, your own way to understand that you are a part of the larger society. And that is where we bring so many things. We bring terms like agility, resilience, and more than all this in the recent past, we have talked of empathy, human touch, concern for other kind of people. All these kind of things are very much required, particularly in emergency times like this. In fact, I think I just put a little bit of a video on YouTube about taking resilience as an example. Now, I went back just this morning to Larsen and Toubro in 1979, 78, 79, identified after interviewing all the managers, identified 40 qualities that are required to be successful in L&T. This is after. And one of them is resilience. Very well defined, exactly defined the same way we are talking of. So if I looked at all the 40, I don't find anything today, either McKinsey talks about, Hewitt talks about, E&Y talks about, or anywhere different, except here and there, we have changed a little bit of language. We have brought in maybe a little more customer orientation was there even those days, etc., etc. So I think the competencies that are required are not phenomenally different, but at this point of time, we are saying, please realize, COVID has taught us one big lesson. All people are equal. You have come from dust, you will go to dust. Remember this. And this is what it has taught us. It doesn't differentiate between a prime minister, president of a country, or a migratory labor and so on. So please remember this, that all human beings are equal and they have phenomenal potential. Now the migratory labor taught us something. It's important. If somebody goes 1,500 kilometers carrying all his family members, walks and so on, what is the stamina he has? Now I keep asking HR people, do you have the stamina? Can you walk for 500 miles? And if you are committed, if you are passionate about your profession, you can walk any amount of miles. That is passionate. So that is what is required. Passion for what you do, concern for people. I mean, these are the kind of skills. And develop versatility. I think you should have a broad orientation to life. Today, we are saying that you can't anymore say, this is not my job. Every employee should be able to do everything. If that is so, I think we use the term in the past, multi-skilling. I think you should have the ability to therefore respect multiple talent in people, facilitate this and so on. And I would normally say, I think you should be, today I would very prominently say, you should be little spiritual. I'm not saying religious. Spiritual means somebody who understands the spirit behind the actions. Why are some people become so passionate about it? If Isha Foundation has 9 million volunteers, we can't even get 9 volunteers in National HRD Network in some of the chapters. What is it? What brings passion? Now, if a HR manager can learn about what brings passion in his own kind of a company, then you have earned your bread and butter. You can do wonderful kind of things. So that is what a questioning mind, a research orientation, a constant learning kind of an attitude. I mean, these are the top of the mind kind of things.
No, I think that sums it up beautifully. In fact, some of those qualities are almost like classics. Resilience was relevant 40 years ago, is relevant now, will probably be relevant 40 years later. Empathy, how you relate to people, versatility, a desire to continue learning. I think some of these are classics, and you've weaved them together beautifully. I think that just about puts it bang on. Peter, how much time do we have? Do we have time for another question, or?
Yes, we can take another question, we do have time, so
Okay.
you can definitely
Okay.
take that. Yeah.
So Dr. Rao, one of the questions that's come up pertains to the 70-20-10 rule. I don't know who came up with that. I think it was Lombardo, if I remember correctly. Uh, 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 so 70% of what people learn is from experiences on the job, 20% through social interactions, and 10% through formal learnings. So the question is, how do you see this whole model changing during the time of COVID and post-COVID?
I think I have been seeing people, a lot of them offering webinars and attending webinars. And they are all free webinars and also some training programs. These are the ones that may take care of a small percentage of the 10%, small percentage, because webinars are only informative.
Sure.
They at best give you a little bit of knowledge. Now, I don't think the model will, I mean, these percentages are, nobody has strictly measured, run a research, and even if you do a research, you'll not be able to come up very strictly 70-20-10. But I think that's a decent kind of a model. A lot of what one learns is from experience. But that experience is learned pretty fast if you have the 10% which is coming from training programs. The conceptualization helps you to assimilate experiences, shortens the time of building, converting it into a skill. If you don't have the 10%, then what happens is the 70% will go on year after year. You are learning. It is like I have 40 years of experience, the same thing multiplied by 40 years. No, that doesn't. So I think this is a decent golden kind of a rule, 70-20-10. In fact, my colleague Govindarajan, I'm sure you have heard of what he talks of. He has also come up with a similar theory, which is a three-box theory. He says in terms of how do you manage your life, you saying you should be able to, at least in whenever you plan your own kind of a life, I think at least 10% of the time or 10% of the activities you are doing so far, you should discard every now and then. So I tell people in performance management, can you discard 10-20% of what you have been doing last year as your KRAs, pass it on down the line, do something new, live in the present, 70% live in the present, maybe 15-20% work for the future, and the remaining discard the past and things like that. I think interesting way of looking at it. I don't think this model will change if you appreciate that 10% of formal learning really puts you into the right kind of a perspective that is required to assimilate the 70% that you are learning and so on. There was a very interesting study conducted by Macaulay, very interesting. That is where I think 1980s they have come up with this particular kind of a finding. Most of the top level executives who made it to higher levels, they were asked what helped you to learn what you have learned. Very rarely they talked about the training program they attended. In fact, they have even taken for granted, even if they have graduated from Harvard, etc., they may not have acknowledged that. They said, my first job was the most important thing. A good boss I had, the failures I had, successes I had. But when you go deeper into this, you will find they have taken for granted the good education they have had helped them. I'm reasonably certain Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who started Naukri.com, he was a student of IIT and then IIM Ahmedabad. He told me once, like Professor Rao, I still remember one class you taught us, that is on internal locus of control, where you said that you matter, your belief in yourself and things of that kind. Every time he meets me, he says, I still remember this. Now, I don't want to say that is because of this he has become what he has become. He has become what he has become because of certain other kind of thing. But that little thing may have helped him, may have given him some faith. So conceptualization, don't underrate the 10% of formal learning. I think that is always useful. And don't also underrate every day is an experience. Multiply your experiences. So I love this model, and I think you should continue to keep learning from your own experiences and through training programs.
So, Krishnan, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much, Dr. Rao. That was beautifully put there. I think we might be running out of time. Peter, where are we on time?
Yes, so it's up. However, if there is any questions at your end that you would like to take it, we can definitely do so, or else we can
Yeah, I have to go off for some
Sure.
other
Sure,
meeting.
sure.
So maybe one question, last question, if you have something.
So I
Mohan,
think
tell me.
the last one, Dr. Rao, would probably be any message that you would like to leave HR professionals. I think that would really help.
Well, I've always said, if you are a HR professional, it is a God-given gift to you. Doctors take care of people to living of people, healthy living of people. HR people take care of both healthy living and livelihoods of people, employment, everything. You create happiness at work, which contributes. So recognize what a great thing it is to be a HR professional and care for yourself and care for all others around you. Constantly build competencies, learn, and make a difference in the lives of other people. Thank you very much, Jagmohan. Wonderful, I think, interacting with you. I enjoyed your questions. I hope I have lived up to some expectation that you may have
Dr.
had.
Rao,
It's a
you
pleasure
always
interacting.
lived up to much more than what the expectations are, and today is not an exception. And I think everybody else would probably feel the same way that I do. I'd like to, before I wind up, I'd like to just end the session with a quote from Dr. Rao, which I loved and I thought I'd shared with everyone. HR is not a product to be sold. It's a process to be lived. And I think Dr. Rao's personal and professional life has been a testament to that. It's been a pleasure having you here with us, Dr. Rao, and HRAI. Thank you so much for having both me and Dr. Rao here for the session. And thank you, viewers. Peter, over to you so that you can wind this up.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Rao, for sharing. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rao, for sharing your experience and learning. Thank you, Mr. Jagmohan, for taking us through this insightful journey. It was definitely wonderful to have both of you all out here on today's session. It has been a pleasure being with you all today. Thank you for taking up significant number of questions too. That would definitely help all our participants. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank all the associations for supporting HRAI event. Geisha IT Association. Geisha.
Peter?
Hello. Yes. Hello.
Sorry to interrupt. I think we are already running late on time and Dr. Rao has to join somewhere else. We can skip this part for now.
Sure. Great. So thank you once again, dear panel members and our participants for joining us today. Do join us for our next webinar on the 30th of July, 2020, tomorrow, to discuss on road to recovery from ideation to execution. See you soon. Stay safe. Take care and bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jagmohan and Dr. Rao. Thank you so much.
Thank you.